As I said, my name is Shawn Shapton. I am the full-time. Prior to the pandemic, we moved from the Moose Lodge over to Indwell, to their new location, Harvey Woods Lost. And then during the pandemic, because they weren't comfortable with guests coming in and out, we made the decision to go to a larger commercial kitchen where we could do the takeout services through the day. I want to be really clear. Bullwinkle's is not just for those that are homeless. Our restaurant provides services to anyone that's struggling. People that come, if they come and they ask for 6 meals, we give them 6 meals. It is not our decision to ask questions. That's a hard piece for a lot of folks. The reason is because they may be coming to get meals so they can provide a meal for their family at night. We don't know their story, and for the most part, just coming through our door is hard. It's hard for a lot of families. We're seeing so many young families now that for one reason or another are struggling. Maybe through the pandemic there's been a breakdown in the marriage, and now there's 2 houses that are trying to be supported instead of 1. There's been a job loss, mental health crisis. Things like that happen every single day at Operation Sharing. One of the best pieces that I want to say about Bullwinkle's is we don't just provide a soup kitchen. We don't come and just give you a basic meal. We provide gourmet entrees, and they're provided mainly through donations. We're really lucky to have incredible support from Probus Express. They donate about $800 to $1,000 every single week in groceries to Operation Sharing. We receive large meat donations, so we're providing turkey dinners, ham dinners, meatloaf. Quiche apparently is very popular with our guests. We provide a fresh salad, a drink, and a dessert that is homemade in our commercial kitchen. Food for Friends. Our Food for Friends program is actually a signature program at Operation Sharing. It provides dignity and allows individuals and families to grocery shop for non-taxable items of their choice. We provide clients with Operation Sharing gift cards that can be used at most major grocery stores in Woodstock and Ingersoll. Each card that is issued has a client signature on the back that must be matched with the receipt tape at the store to prevent fraud. For anyone that receives just a regular Walmart gift card, you can walk right down to the pawn shop and he will give you 50% face value for that card. So one of the pieces that we struggled with was how do we prevent fraud for someone that's trying to get to better themselves. And so we've come up with a signature program. It's not a card that says Walmart or Food Basics or Zehrs or anything like that. It actually says Operation Sharing on it. They collect the money there, and at the end of the month we come back and collect the cards. Each receipt tape is wrapped around each set of cards with a matching signature that comes with identification. We have an income qualifying formula that requires proof of income and expenses along with proof that they are residents of Oxford County. This program is extremely successful and runs Monday, Wednesday, and Friday in Woodstock, Tuesdays and Thursdays in Ingersoll. We also provide a taxable item cupboard that is stocked with toilet paper, deodorant, shampoo, diapers, both child and adult, toothpaste, brushes, laundry soap, and cleaning supplies. Every single day in Woodstock, we give out $700 per day in food cards. In Ingersoll, we give out $400 per day. The card amounts vary but are based off of the number of people in your family. There has also been a significant increase in both Woodstock and Ingersoll during the pandemic, which continues to show the importance of this program. Food for Friends is helping take the stress off of individuals and families that are on what we call the thin line. Those that may still be housed, but barely. Those that can't afford to pay their rent or groceries at the same time, so this is the stopgap that they can help with. This program operates with 1 staff member and a humongous volunteer base to operate these programs every single day. Operation Hope. 4 months ago, with support from the county and community partners, we began the Day Space program as part of our goal to achieve 24/7 shelter model. We started with 2 days per week, but quickly realized that wasn't enough, and we began offering the program 5 days per week, from 8 a.m. until 4 p.m. Today, we have a brand new, fully renovated Day Space and a community partner office located at 22 Wilson Street, Operation Sharing's head office. Each day, we welcome many guests from the homeless community, most that struggle with extreme mental health and addiction issues. We also see many individuals that are currently housed but are well aware that they will be potentially unhoused and come to seek services from our community partner office. In the community partner office, each day, 5 days a week, we have the human services representative. So it's a caseworker typically. They're able to help with OW or ODSP. If someone's fallen into rent arrears, the last thing that we want anyone to do is to sign a piece of paper that says, I will leave my house, because I can tell you right now, you're not going to get another one for near what you're paying. Rental increases, We had one young lady 2 weeks ago with two young kids that was offered $6,000 to sign an N11. An N11 is basically they're going to vacate the property, and she got a check for $6,000, which sounds, I'm sure at the time, like a grand amount of money. But what she didn't realize is that when she left, how difficult the housing market is. She went from having a 3-bedroom townhouse for her children and herself. She's currently residing in a single bedroom for $50 more than she was paying for the townhouse. We see these pieces every single day. That is why it's so important that the community partners work with people to help understand the situation we're facing in our community. Operation Sharing is working Operation Hope, is working, and Operation Sharing is proud to be the lead agency on this project. This program operates with one full-time staff member with support from several community partners, and we're very thankful to College Ave United Church for allowing us some extra space. As I mentioned, in January of this year, County Council passed a motion that Operation Sharing to provide 24/7 shelter. But after significant discussion, it was determined that the day space would operate out of College Ave Church. This has turned out to be a fantastic alternative that allows those that stay at the emergency shelter to simply come directly across the street to the day program, which is a convenient and familiar space to most of our guests and clients. We have recently completed a full renovation. It includes very comfortable and new furniture. We provide food, we provide programming to help those that are struggling, whether it's with addiction or mental health, or simply if it's just a smile when they arrive because they haven't seen one of those in a long time. We do have free Wi-Fi and the availability to search for housing opportunities with the assistance of our very own Lisa Kerr, who has proved to be an incredible person in our new program. Currently, we are thankful to the Oxford County Human Services Team, Oxford County Community Health Center and Mobile Health Bus, CMHA 10th Valley Addiction and Mental Health, the Woodstock Police, Southwest Public Health, Cycles of Life, and the Woodstock Public Library for their partnerships. All of these collaborations have had an incredible effect on how fast supports are made available, especially when someone comes to us in crisis. One of the largest hurdles that we faced was finding a suitable weekend space. We currently operate the Inn, our evening shelter, out of Old St. Paul's, directly to the right of Popeyes, and then our day space at College Ave Church. So two active churches that is very active on the weekends. They didn't want anything there on the weekend, which I totally respect. So I'm really pleased to say that we have signed an agreement with CMHA. It does begin in October, and we'll be providing the same day space services from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. This agreement and partnership with CMHA is proving already invaluable. They have the crisis support team. The biggest piece that I faced when I took over was trying to stay in our lane. I can't be a mental health expert and a shelter expert and a food expert and a policing expert and an addiction expert and you add everything up, we can't do it. But there's so many awesome agencies in this community that is what they do. Our goal is to create one location where everybody is centrally located to make it easier. When the weekend day space opens, that will just leave the small gap between 4 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. each day that the homeless community will be without shelter. However, I am pleased today to announce that we've achieved an agreement with Old St. Paul's Church that we will be opening up at 4 p.m. starting in mid-October, the same weekend that we open up the day space. That means that in October, Operation Sharing will have fully achieved 24/7 shelter model. The pandemic has been very hard on all of us, even for those that have the tools, the resources, and the capacity to navigate a system that is fractured in so many ways. Take a pandemic, a housing market boom that has driven rental prices through the roof. Dump on top of that a mental health and addiction crisis, and that's where we are today in our community. We are tracking and measuring the outcomes, and although it's still very early, I'm pleased to see the results that we're seeing. I received a call from the BIA again last week, thanking us for the service. They're seeing a significant decrease in visible homeless issues in front of their storefronts. For 2 years at Operation Sharing, we heard a lot of complaints. We see homelessness like we've never seen before in our community, and that's difficult to see. It does not mean that homelessness didn't exist before. It's just never seen this level, and it's never been this visible. One of the biggest pieces anytime I have an awesome opportunity to speak to people is to remind them that kindness matters. A simple hello or a warm smile can make a huge difference in someone's life, especially when they're struggling with homelessness. Never underestimate kindness. There's no doubt that there are lots of opinions on our homeless population, those struggling with addiction and mental health, but the bottom line is they are all human. They're someone's son or daughter, brother or sister, or mom and dad. I'm not here to say that I have all the answers, but what I'm here to say is that our problems aren't unique to Oxford, but how we're handling it is very unique. I'm proud of where we are, and I can confidently say that this is only the beginning to help those that truly need the most help in our community. I thank you for the opportunity to be here today, and I hope there's lots of questions, because I always like answering questions. Don, go ahead.
Yeah, you didn't mention two other areas that you deal with, and that's coats for kids and
Sure.
the Christmas place.
Yeah,
I was
so-
on the board back in the 80s and 90s.
Yeah, so both Codes for Kids and Christmas Place, although they're under the Operation Sharing umbrella, have become sort of entities on their own that operate out of our location.
You've come a long way since when I was on the board, I'll tell you. We didn't have a lot of those activities going on. The in out of the place was just starting when I was on the board.
Okay. Yeah, it's been huge. So when the inn started, they would see anywhere from 4 to 7 guests a night. Currently, we see up to 25 each night, and the female population of those that are homeless is rising significantly. But Don, you're right. There's been a lot of changes, and really pleased to see the direction we're going in the community. Go ahead.
In your opinion,
Yeah.
if there was a national guaranteed annual income for people,
Yeah.
how would this impact the type of services that you're offering?
Yeah, so first of all, great question. Before I answer that though, how many people here are aware of what the street allowance is if you're homeless, how much money you get each month? Anyone? Nobody. So if you're on OW is Ontario Works, which was better well known as welfare. If you are unhoused, you receive $345 to last you all month long. If you are housed, you receive $745. And $600 of that has to go towards shelter, which leaves you with $145 of income to do with what you want. You can imagine that doesn't go very far today. In fact, yesterday I made a rare trip to the grocery store. I don't do it very often. I got 2 bags of groceries and it was $119. And I thought I made a mistake when I rang things in because you do it yourself now, but it doesn't go very far. Do I think that a basic income would help? 100% I do. How would it impact our services? I think that we would have availability of more people to reach services that they need faster. I think that it's not going to fix the housing crisis, as important as the funding is. I think that we need to see a shift in that market. But I think for how people live and how the choices they have available to them, I think it would make a humongous impact on their daily lives.
That money, that would be per person, so if it were a husband and wife, they would get double that?
So we currently have 3 couples that are currently homeless, and it really varies. So typically when it's a couple, they actually get less because they're living together, right? So you're seeing a lot of people that are saying, oh, we aren't together anymore, because then they'll get the $345 combined compared to, I think it's 700, just over 700, but yeah. So, one thing that I didn't touch on is I hear a lot. I have a lot of people that come to my office that want to tell me that these folks need to get a job. I'm sure lots of people in this room agree with that statement. I'm sure there's some that need to do it. We deal with those specifically at the day space and at the shelter. They're at the bottom rung, and they're there for a reason. I know all of them personally. Some are easier to deal with than others. I see very unique situations, and I smile not because it's funny, but if you don't have a sense of humor in our industry, you're going to wither and be out of this job really quickly. But I can tell you this, at no point in their life did they ever expect or dream to be a raging addict or struggle with mental health. At no point in their life. You know, they all had hopes and dreams, like everybody here did. We just made different choices. Some of them were raised in a way that is incomprehensible I usually say to them that they've lived 1,000 lives compared to anyone else that I know. I had actually had someone show up in our day space for another program and yell at one of our guests that they had to get a job. Have to get a job. I was a bit shocked to hear someone raising their voice at the Food for Friends program. Doesn't happen ever usually. And when I went out and realized who he was addressing, I brought them into my office, asked what was happening. Their suggestion was that these people, and that's how they say it, these people, like they are less than you or I, need to get a job. They can't just sit here all day. I need to be clear. You have no idea what happened in their life. You have no idea why they're coming to our door or why they're here, but I can tell you every person has been qualified and quantified and deserves to be in our space. And they deserve to be in our space and treated with respect and with dignity, even though they're difficult at times because of the addiction or mental health. I cannot stress that enough, that no one will be turned away at our door because they are less than you or I or myself or my staff. And I take that very seriously at Operation Sharing and how we handle things. Any questions, Don?
Yeah, back when I was involved, I used to go around and collect a lot of food from all the grocery stores, and a lot of them quit doing that, and were sending like dented cans and so on back to head office, and rather than giving it to us, because I used to go down with a cube van to Toronto to the National Food Bank and pick up. Anyway, they stopped doing that, but Steve Julian started the 25-cent thing at the stores when you get your groceries. But a lot of the cashiers forget to ask people when they're going to the grocery stores to add 25 cents for Operation Sharing. They don't have to ask. You can yourself say, I'll give 25 cents. I don't know if you mentioned that.
No, I didn't, and that's a big piece. One thing that has kind of really slipped down has been the giving at the cash registers, right? We're noticing a decrease. The grocery stores themselves are making a large contribution, typically once a year or twice a year, whether it's from Sobeys or Loblaws or whatever. But the contributions at the till are down. There's a lot of staff turnover, right? When we go and we ask and we try and provide the training that's needed to staff, you know, what we're hearing is they're going through staff so quickly, it's hard to keep everybody up to date. I'm not saying that as an excuse. We're trying to provide more training, and actually we're trying to get to the point where it's just a UPC scan as opposed to them typing something in. They'll just hold it up, click it, scan it, and it automatically comes off your groceries. That's the next wave of where we're headed, and I think we aren't too far away from that, but yeah, far away.
If you could expand or start 3 new programs to address the needs, what would they be?
Yeah, so first of all, I would have a much larger facility and would have everything under one roof. That would be my number one priority right now, is to have a facility where I can have the shelter here, and I can have sort of the restaurant and a few other programs that, you know, there. I would have on my staff, I would have a mental health and addiction person that can be there no matter what happens, no matter what meetings are going on. And I would also try and make sure that people know that, you know, what's available to them. And I know that sounds crazy, because to you and I, having the ability or the capacity to know what you qualify for or what you don't is a simple piece. To them, it's a major hurdle. So having sort of, I'll call it a system navigator, to be able to say, don't go to the 9 other places and tell them your drama and trauma and relive that every place you go. Let us tell you where you need to go and start with the right person first. That to me is certainly the next phase for Operation Sharing. I'm pushing the board right now really hard to start hiring someone that has the ability to really break down the system. And because it is hard. And when you've had significant trauma, the worst piece to do is relive it every single step that you go. And that's really one of the struggles. Our guests that come into our care every day, identification. Identification gets stolen, I can tell you every day. Somebody shows up, I was slept out in the woods last night and somebody robbed me. Well, that will happen when you sleep in the woods, right? But how you replace it, you start with your birth certificate first. And if they go to a place where they can't do that, that's a barrier, right? So with us, by having county staff there, by having community health center staff there, they can begin the process instantly But we've also realized that if you've ever collected OW or ODSP, they have access to copies of your identification, right? So it's speeding things up, and it's letting people just calm down, because nobody makes your best decision when you're stressed out and you don't know where you're gonna get your next meal or how you're gonna pay your rent tomorrow.
So
Yeah.
what are your obstacles to getting that space and funding those special staff?
I can tell you my biggest obstacle right now is, does anyone here know what NIMBYism is?
Yep.
Raise your
My
hand.
backyard.
Not in my backyard, right? And I can tell you right now, that's my biggest obstacle. I can't just move this facility anywhere. I need the proper zoning, and I need to make sure that we aren't moving it into a neighborhood that it doesn't belong in. I'm the first one to tell you that if the facility doesn't match where it needs to go, then it shouldn't be there, right? We deal with some very visible issues. And when someone comes to us and maybe they've had a bad dose of whatever they chose to use that morning, it is difficult, you know. But bar none, the proper location is it. I think truthfully, funding has, although it's really important, I don't want anyone to think not to donate, please donate to Operation Sharing. But I think it's how do we really create a facility in the right spot where people don't feel like they're less than anyone else, and that we aren't moving them to the far east or far west or anywhere where they don't really belong, because they still have to be able to access services on foot, right? But that's probably my biggest issue is location, and we are working through that. The county, they have way more resources than I'll ever have, but they've been great in listening and have really jumped on board as a partner, as opposed to a funder. And when I have meetings with them, you know, previous to this life, sitting on council, it gave me really great experience of what their expectations are and the language that they need to hear things in. I don't need another funder. I need a partner that has the abilities to get these things done. So we do have a couple locations that we're hoping to try and obtain at some point.
My assumption is the best thing we can do is donate. We really can't help with anything else other than help funding.
So, I think there's a lot more that you can do. Funding is always important, but I think we need to change the messaging surrounding the homeless. You know, everyone that thinks that everybody, because you're poor or maybe you struggle with some mental health or an addiction piece, that you just deserve to be on the corner of the street in the gutter. I can tell you, these folks are awesome. Some are very well educated. I have a person right now that has 2 university degrees, that's struggling with homelessness. It doesn't mean that every one of them were raised in a terrible home. It just means terrible decisions and circumstances fell in, and that is the outcome of those problems. But everyone deserves to change the verbiage in our community. Right now, homelessness is going to be the biggest issue in this next election. There's not even a question in my mind that it will be the number one. And trust me, I have a parade of politicians coming through, or those that want to dabble in it, you know, asking what the solution is. There is no solution, because what works today probably won't work tomorrow. You know, okay enough isn't what anybody wants to hear, but my goal when our guests leave our facility and I go home at night to my great family and my kids, is that they're okay enough to come back tomorrow, that they're okay enough to get help tonight, that if something happens, they have the resources that we provided them with, that they'll be okay until tomorrow when we're back.
In terms of donations, I noticed that we can donate directly to you through the site.
Yep.
But there's also something called Canada Helps, is it?
Right, so
Do you get all the money that goes to them, or do they take a fee?
they take a very small portion, and the best piece with Canada Helps is it's directly deposited into our account, and you automatically get kept a tax receipt, right? The percentage that they're taking right now, I think, is just less than 1%, and they've been a great partner, because I don't have the staff or the capacity to try and handle the donation piece. It wasn't done exactly correctly before, so we've made the switch to doing this. You can still donate directly to us, you know, and Maddie will write a tax receipt. So if you want to give us a check or whatever, we can still accommodate that as well.
But you prefer to do Canada Helps because they do the admin for you?
They do the admin for us, and it's far cheaper than me having a full-time administrator on my staff. Art.
How many staff do you have,
So, Bullwinkle's is one staff, John Smith. Food for Friends is one staff. I have 6 staff at the inn, Lisa Kerr and myself. So we are not heavily staffed at this point. The inn staff is going to significantly change in October because my staff at the inn right now, they work 13.5-hour shifts. They come in at 7:30 and everybody leaves at 9 a.m. So, because they have to leave an hour for cleaning protocols due to COVID. So we're splitting the shifts now. I'm gonna have a 4 to 11 and an 11 till 8 a.m. and then a cleaning person who was homeless and is now fully employed on our payroll and is our cleaning staff and does a phenomenal job. So we'll probably raise my staff by 8 people, 6 at the inn and 2 at the weekend days, please.
do you have any volunteer help as well?
Yeah, so we accept volunteers at Food for Friends and at Bullwinkle's. I don't allow volunteers to go into the shelter at night, and even the day shelter without proper training. And I don't think that it's the best place for a volunteer to be, because I know what can happen and how quickly things can go wrong. Again, if the guests that we see, they're amazing, but if it's the wrong moment, things can really go south. So I need to ensure that I have properly trained and educated staff down there only. We do accept students. They're paid students, though, typically going into either policing or into like a parole situation.
Are they qualified for community hours that do that too?
Yeah, they do. They do qualify for community hours, and we do get a grant from the government because we're hiring a student. Yeah.
Anyway, could we?
Sorry,
Sorry,
that's okay. No worries. Yeah.
We've got some limits. We appreciate everything.
That's
Dave,
okay.
you have thank you.
Sean, on behalf of the club, thank you for coming and updating us.
Yeah.
We think you guys are doing a super job, and I hope that the members will consider donations to you.
That's
The
great.
club would like to
Oh,
offer
thank you.
that to
Thank you so
operations
much.
sharing for
Appreciate
your
it.
president.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.